Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from SkiEssentials.com.
And I'm Bob. How's it going?
Today is an exciting day. We've had a lot of exciting days lately. Today, Nordica has officially announced their Unleashed 106 and Unleashed 106CA. They are the two most centered skis here. So this one is the 106CA. That one is the normal 106, or kind of affectionately referred to as the TI.
I have a hard time not calling it the 106 Ti, even though it's not the name.
Not in the name, but yes, so that one does have metal. Yeah. And Nordica's kind of been teasing these for a while. They haven't been too secretive about them. There's been images about them. They've even said Unleashed 106 in reference to like some special mock-up skis. So they've been trickling this out for a little bit, but today is the actual day, and we've skied them not a ton, but like 3 or 4 good days.
They've been in the truck for a while.
Yeah.
And it's kind of been like, oh, we have some time. Let's get back on these. And it's been a little bit here and there versus a full-fledged assault.
Yeah, not a full-fledged assault just yet, but definitely will come.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've already spent enough time on them, or at least I feel like I've spent enough time on them where I'm really starting to understand their true character.
Yeah.
Because it's been a little bit of a journey, kind of figuring out what they want them to be, how they feel, what they're good at, all those things.
And the relationship to the other Unleashed and more freeride-oriented enforcer skis that you have over there.
Yeah, so I brought some props because I thought that would be fun. I kind of feel strongly that neither of these Unleashed 106 skis would exist if it weren't for some skis that Nordica has had success with in the past.
Yeah.
The one ski that we don't have up here that I don't know what happened to mine. I took the bindings off them, but maybe I must have given them away.
They're not in the office?
The Enforcer 104 Free. I don't think so.
Yeah, I would have thought you would have kept those.
I don't know. It's concerning. I'm not sure where they went. But we do have an Enforcer 110. This is my personal pair of Enforcer 110s that I've, held on to for a while. This is Matt's personal Unleashed 108. So, going in chronological order, this came first.
Yep.
Then we kind of transitioned to this as the Enforcer Freeze went away. We started with the Unleashed 98, 108, and now that ski over there,
this
the big
120
one
here?
Yeah, that's kind of like before these 106s. That was sort of the last update that we got. That ski has a new shape, more early taper, just kind of a different vibe than we had over here in the 108 and the 98 as well.
And the 114.
And the 114, yep. And then that short length that you have over there, that's the new Unleashed 98 CA, which is kind of like another nod or another example of some newer stuff. So basically, they took the recipe of that Unleashed 120 and put it in that ski with a pretty similar shape overall, but obviously much narrower. And then they took that shape and took the construction of the CA and put it in this ski.
Yep.
That all makes sense.
I think so. Makes sense to me, but we've been looking at it for a long time.
Yeah, and it's been like an interesting journey for us, going back about a decade now to Soul Rider 97.
Yep.
Like, we both loved that ski. I skied on Soul Riders for a long time. When Enforcer 104 Free came out, like, I was over the moon excited. And then when Unleashed 98 came out, I was also very excited. And it's been an interesting journey. And some of the moments along the journey haven't been obvious, or like have almost been like counterintuitive. Of like, when we got the Unleashed 98, it was like, sweet, a new Soul Rider 97. And then it was like, well, this is like the best carving ski I've ever been on in the 98 twin tip world. Like
Yeah.
this thing is incredible.
And same thing with the 108. Like I just,
Right, like no one really expected that.
Yeah. And I hate like having to talk about how good it carves, but
Right.
it's like
That's
the
really,
outstanding property that it has.
It's really,
Really
really
good.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been a fun journey. I don't think we need to say any other things in reference to the journey or
Right.
how we got here.
We're here now.
Yeah, we are here now. So, as we've done in the past, although it's been a while, do you want to tell me about construction?
Yeah, and I'll take this 106 Ti here.
Yeah, we'll start there and then kind of talk about the
Yeah,
differences.
because I think it's fair to say that this is more of the flagship model, and it is the kind of direct descendant of the 120 in terms of construction. So Nordica's calling the build drift lock technology here, and it makes sense because you are having different components. You have a light poplar wood core in the ski, and you have a carbon strip along the top, and then the metal laminate is different than what we have in, terrain specific?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, terrain-specific metal is almost gone in Unleashed.
Yeah, still
So-
in Santa Ana as far as...
But for 2027, I believe the only ski that has terrain-specific metal is the 98.
Right.
Because the 114 does not change shape, but it changes construction.
Right.
So, yeah.
You're getting that drift lock metal,
Yeah.
which is the same as in the 120. So it is a width-specific metal laminate. It goes from the contact point, so where the ski hits the snow if you just lie it flat in both tips and tails, and it runs through the middle of the ski there. And it's just a little bit wider than the binding platform is. So it's not full width, and it's not full length like some of the parts of the terrain-specific metal that we saw in previous/current Unleashed skis. You know, the terrain-specific was full width
in
the
shovel.
tips and tails,
Yeah.
and full width underfoot. It really only tapered in the mid-body of the front and the back of the ski. So this new drift lock technology is really meant to act as a suspension system when you're engaged in a carved turn. They are leaving the tips and tails unencumbered by that metal, and that's what's giving it the driftiness. So
Yeah.
drifty when you want it in the tips and tails,
Yeah.
locked in when you're in a carved turn.
And that's like, you know, again, like thinking back to this ski, or think the current Unleashed
Yeah.
108, great ski. Rarely did we use the word drifty to describe its performance. And
Especially given the width, yeah.
yeah, and I think like, you know, people in this category shopping for skis like this, the general feedback was, these are great. Could we make them a little driftier?
Yeah. And then a quick transition to the CA, take out the metal.
Yeah,
So
pretty easy.
Similar wood core, similar carbon strip, and then no metal.
Yeah, so a little lighter, changes the flex
Yeah.
pattern a little bit. Do you want to look at flex? Well,
Yeah, and before we do that, you had mentioned lighter. It's about 50 grams lighter per ski.
this.
Yeah,
compared
and
to that.
we don't have the flats to put on the scale. Nordica's stating this TI at 1900, so 1750, 1760 in the CA version.
Wouldn't 1850 be
yes.
50?
I apologize, 1850 in the CA, both in the 185 centimeter length. So sub 2,000 grams based on Nordica's measurements. You know, again, we haven't put the flat skis on the scale to get an
Yeah.
accurate measurement there. But yeah, flex-wise, you know, it is interesting. There is kind of that thicker wood core, especially through the middle thirds of the ski, the middle 2/3 of the
Yeah.
ski, before it gets a little bit lighter and more flexible in the tips and in the tails.
But they're certainly not soft. I mean,
No,
there's
they're
a
not
nice,
soft.
There's a nice bend to them, but they're pretty substantial skis.
And the tail is stiffer than the tip.
Yeah, do you
that
want
I
to
can
trade?
tell. Yes.
This is a tiny bit stiffer.
Yep. Than this,
Yeah.
the CA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not like tremendously stiffer. And then like the other thing that's interesting and not surprising is that one is springier. That one returns to its cambered shape a little quicker. The metal in this one kind of dampens it a little bit.
Yeah, you can operate the CA at slightly slower speeds and get better feedback. And that's what we found with the 98 CA this past year when that came out. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, like this is great responsiveness.
Yeah,
in
you
this
build energy in it
Yeah.
a little bit more easily.
Yeah.
And then we were just playing this game, like, even though this has more metal compared to the one with metal,
Yep.
the Unleashed 106, this is actually a little bit softer, you know?
Yeah.
So
It's a thinner core profile, like especially through, the heel area.
yeah,
That's where I've noticed it on snow with the 106s, both of them,
yeah,
is that when you're engaged and you're in that heel, like that thickness and stiffness comes through.
totally. And then, this has tons of metal in it.
A lot of metal.
Two
Yep.
full sheets of metal. And even this, like, this kind of has a rounder flex pattern
Yeah.
than Unleashed 106. So I think that's important for people to know because, on paper, they have less metal, which might lead you to believe that they are less ski,
Yeah.
kind of, but they're not. They're pretty darn strong.
I haven't found any issues with
Stability?
strength, power, and stability in the 106s.
No. Even this one, even the CA, like,
Yeah.
has quite a bit.
If you didn't tell me that a TI version existed, I would think that I was
Right.
like, oh, look, this is a strong
Yeah.
metal-clad ski.
Yeah, totally. And it's like, it's more noticeable if you start here
Yeah.
and then go to that.
Yep.
Because if you start with that and then go to this, you're kind of like, yeah, that's like pretty close.
Yeah.
But when you do start here and then try the ski with the metal, you are definitely like encouraged to ski a little faster.
Yeah.
Do you want to look at shape?
Yeah.
So I haven't even really like done this to the extent that we're about to do it, but it is, it's derived from that 120. So kind of the big thing that I'm seeing and feeling is there is a little bit more taper in the shovel shape.
Yes.
And I think that's really important to this ski. And that kind of goes along with that drift lock conversation and something that, speaking to the progression in the story, like if you look at the previous tip shapes that we had, it's like sort of in between.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was very apparent, especially when we got on the 120 last year, that
Yeah.
it had a much different engagement and release protocol
Yeah.
than the Unleashed 114. That was the widest
Totally.
Unleashed that we had skied up to
It's
that
far
point.
easier to release the tail
Yeah.
edge or release any part of the ski.
Right.
Which is something that this ski always had,
Yeah.
despite its, strength and weight and just overall heft and power. So I think the journey to get to this tip shape is very interesting. And I like where they landed.
Yeah.
I think like speaking specifically to the tip shape, it's a really nice blend of it'll hook up when you want it to. If you want to be at a higher edge angle and like really drive your ski, there's enough purchase right here. But then in softer snow, if you want to wiggle them,
Yeah.
it's far easier to wiggle than this ski, and I would say easier to wiggle than this ski too, because they feel a little lighter.
Yeah, and I think that the turn radius has a lot to do with it too. So
Yeah.
18.7, it
These are
feels
185s.
longer. And I think that the 108 there, I don't remember what it is, but
19.7.
I mean, I would put $100 on this having a longer turn radius than
Well, and I think
the 108.
it's just this
Yeah.
shape right here.
But like the 108 wants to
it
make
pulls-
that turn,
'cause
pulls
it
you
pulls
into
you
the turn.
from the
Yeah.
shovel, where this pulls you into a turn from like down here.
Right.
So it's just like, I think when you're in that turn, you do feel a pretty short radius or relatively short radius for a freeride ski in this ski.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen at the top of the turn, which is like helpful for a freeride ski.
Yeah, and you can put the work in. Like, Matt does a great job at initiating his turn strongly and really generating that early edge
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem to be too much work for him, but like I really have to focus
Totally.
to get it to do a similar shape as a Unleashed 108.
And I'm curious your opinion here, but it feels a little bit ironic that Matt's not in this video with us because it feels more like a Matt ski than a Jeff or Bob ski.
Yeah.
Especially that TI version.
Yeah.
Like watching Matt ski it and like watching the footage back, like he's just sending it.
Yeah.
And like both of these skis were just on the podium at the Junior Freeride World Championships, and like that's kind of like that's the mindset of that ski, in my opinion, is just
Yeah.
chargy.
And I mean, like, just blanket. I don't love the mid 100s overall. Like, that's not really my style of width.
Yeah, and there are like kind of some that you get along better with.
Yeah.
And I love skiing that thing, but it's been interesting for me going back and forth because when I'm on that, I just ski really fast.
Yeah.
And sometimes I ski faster than I really need to be going.
Yeah, but it's fun.
It's super fun.
It handles it quite well.
It's tremendous.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to let it run through choppy snow, and this one's certainly no slouch. But I feel like we're not done with the shape conversation. A really important thing to understand about these skis, and this is something that I talked to Nordica about because I wanted to make sure that I understood it the way that they want to present it, it is a directional freeride ski first and a twin tip second, or a twin tip even maybe like third somehow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're approaching this ski coming off of especially like an Unleashed 98 CA, if that's your perceived notion of what an Unleashed ski is, this is quite different.
Yeah.
And it does feel, to me, it almost feels more like what old Enforcer free skis could do rather than the most recent Unleashed 108.
Yeah, I think that the Unleashed 108 and 98, and we had talked about Soul Riders, were kind of the progression from Soul Rider with a different
Right.
construction. They're
Right.
still in twin tip world.
Right.
Whereas now we're moving, like
Right.
you said, into that free ride, directional free ride
Yeah,
world.
and like it's not an Enforcer,
Yep.
and it is very different than Unleashed 108. So it kind of just feels like its own thing.
Right.
Like all of these things inspired it and helped like influence its existence, but it's also like, yeah, pretty different than at least any mid 100 ski we've had from Nordica for a while.
Yeah, and there's no other like freestyle twin tip that I can think of that makes sense to compare this to.
Like freestyle.
Freestyle.
No.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's more like my mind goes to like QST 106.
Yes.
Of like, no, it's just a really good freeride ski.
Yeah.
And they're different than a QST 106, but like they feel like they belong in that category.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
So this I thought was very interesting. I've like I said, as I've been skiing them, it's been an interesting journey to kind of figure out what they like to do and what they don't like to do. And like the first couple of days we were on them, I was like going switch and like trying to do 180s and stuff. And then I was like, this just doesn't necessarily feel like that's the main intention of the ski. And of course not, because they're basically 9 centimeters back from true center for mount point.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that if anyone has any notions of moving them forward, that you're really adding thick tail to
Yeah.
the mix.
Well, and like-
you're
Yeah,
it's going to be tough.
I don't think I would recommend it.
Yeah.
That's my initial perception. Also, like I didn't measure the center of camber, but that's something that we'll do at some point. Like that's a lot of tip rocker, and then like far less tail rocker.
Yeah, not as much.
So you don't
Yeah.
want to move yourself too far forward because then you'd be forward in the camber, or you'd be forward of the center of camber, which is never a good place to be.
Yeah, and forward of the center of the cord thickness of
Correct.
the core, which
Yeah.
is pretty apparent when you're looking down.
Yeah.
There's already a lot of stiffness in the tail. Like, I don't
Right.
think I would want to add more.
No, and like to me, they prefer being skied like a directional ski
Yeah.
rather than like a twin tip.
Yeah.
Similar to, say, something like a QST 106.
Yeah. And just to clarify, these are the same mold, different
Correct.
construction.
Same
So
exact
when we're
shape.
talking about shape and profile, same applies to both.
Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about each ski? We have some skiing footage to share.
Sure.
I'll let you go first. What do you think about the 106 non-CA,
All right.
the one with metal in it?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it wants to run.
It
You
sure
know, when
does.
you
Yeah.
get off the chair and you start going, like speed is your friend.
Yeah.
Acceleration is your friend.
Yeah.
Like all of those things are your friends.
Yeah.
The minute you try to tighten it up and make shorter turns, especially with the non-CA version,
Yeah.
it starts to talk back to you a little bit, and that's where the demand comes into play. And like you can do it, but it takes more effort, more focus, more concentration. It's
Yeah.
much happier at speed and in a carved turn. And I do think that there is kind of a nice mix of different edge angles you can take to it.
Yes.
Like when you're riding along kind of lower, shallow edge angles at higher speeds, really composed and smooth.
Yep.
And then same thing if you're really trying to hook it around and carve up the hill, it does that really well too.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a nice blend of construction and shape that Nordica's hit that allows you to do those two things especially on piste.
I agree. And like, we talked about how it always feels silly talking about how good the Unleashed 108 is at
Yeah.
carving. And that didn't lose much,
No.
or really anything. But like you were just saying, they added the ability to let the skier manipulate it more.
Yeah.
So you can add a little amount of slarv into your carve much more easily on that ski. I also think it is considerably easier to control in soft snow
Then the 108?
than the 108.
Okay.
So like that, for me at least, on the 108, I found the tips and tails, they could be potentially kind of not catchy, but demanding.
Yeah.
In softer snow, if you need to throw your skis sideways, that lets you do it much easier.
Yeah.
You do have to work though, like you were saying.
Yeah, and like, did you find that, like, how did you find the rebound in the TI version? I'd say, like, compare it to the 108.
Pretty similar.
Yeah,
I don't find they have a tremendous amount of rebound
either way.
either way.
Yeah.
And we can talk about rebound again when we get to the CA.
Yeah.
But to me, for my size, they feel solid and damp more than they feel energetic and building rebound.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, especially when you're considering who's going to settle on either one. When you're talking
Yeah.
about who's going to buy one of these,
Yeah.
it is those things, that damp and stable versus that energetic, peppy feel.
Totally.
Will kind of draw those lines.
Yeah, but like it feels like a more appropriate choice if you live in the East and you want like a soft snow ski and you're a strong skier.
Yeah.
It feels like a better choice than 108, because
Yep.
108 just can be challenging in the trees around here. If you live out west and you like to ski really fast, that thing is an absolute dream.
Yeah, I mean, it's a missile. It really,
It would be so much fun.
yeah, and like it worked really well in our trails around here, where you're using the contours and the
Yeah.
terrain as part of your
Yeah.
ski journey.
And like choppy snow,
Yeah, no issues.
it doesn't even realize the choppy snow is there.
Yeah.
The thing just rifles right through them. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
You talk about CA?
yeah, and like you were saying, how it's like potentially a better softer snow option. Like I think it's easier to maneuver.
Yeah, I do too.
In tighter spaces.
Yep.
I still don't think it steers as well.
It's not
there's a lot of shovel. So
There
it does want to
Yeah.
be kind of moved around like that as opposed to
And
steered.
I'm glad you brought up the amount of shovel, because like for me on a 185 with this amount of shovel,
Yeah.
every time I look down, I'm like, that is a lot of ski. And to get the most out of it, or in order to get the ski to feel its best, you have to ski forward.
Yeah.
Like, it does not like it if you want to, like, just kind of, like, relax and, like, go along for the ride.
Yeah.
It can do it, and, like, it's not going to punish you, but when you're skiing it off of this section, it's easier to control, it performs better, it feels more intuitive. The whole thing just kind of, like, comes alive.
Yeah.
Like, you have to get forward. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm, like, split about which one I like more. Because this one, the CA, like we were talking about with rebound, like you trade some vibration damping for a little bit more rebound. But, you know, like drift lock metal doesn't feel like it's trying to add torsional rigidity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it'll be interesting, like, to have our Sooth ski friends twist them.
Right.
Because, like, I don't feel much of a difference in actual edge grip. You know, and again, we're talking about 106 skis, so, like, edge grip is a silly thing.
Yeah, but you can
106 skis,
feel
like,
it.
Yeah, totally. And, like, I don't feel like this has much less edge grip than that. It's the way it finishes a turn. This is snappier and kind of wants you to go across the fall line more, where the one with metal just wants to go really fast.
Yeah. I mean, you get, again, it comes down to percentages. Like, what do you think you spend most of your time doing?
In general?
Like more CA stuff or more TI stuff? Like, if you were to head out tomorrow and let's say you just had your day.
I think,
you know,
I think I do more CA things.
You think you do more CA things?
Yeah, I like to find little things to pop off of. And,
Yeah.
like, it's that little, that roller, the Hollywood roller on lift line.
Yep.
You know, how, like, Matt has basically developed a preference of just, like, dragging his hip and
absorbing it and carving it, yeah.
over it, where I just want to jump off it every time.
Yeah.
And, like, that to me feels like the kind of the difference in the personality between these skis.
Yeah, no, I think
and, like,
so
you can
too.
definitely jump off stuff on that thing, but when you land, the skis just it wants to take you,
Yeah.
which, like, a lot of people love. Like, shouldn't be perceived as a bad thing. It's just that's the intrinsic nature of the ski.
Yeah, it's a little bit more aggressive, and that is also shown in the sizing. So this is the 185 in the TI. This comes in a 190. That one, the CA does not.
Tops off at 185 here.
The CA goes one shorter to 152, I think, whereas the TI starts at a 157. So there is just a slight shift in the top and bottom end in sizing.
Well, luckily for me, I don't have to worry about the
either one
existence
of those.
a 190
Yeah.
or a 152 or
Yeah.
whatever you said. So, I don't know. Like, anything else you want to say?
They work well in trees, but I think that the wider the better.
I agree.
You know, when you're skiing, we had mentioned a QST 106. That ski is like
Quicker.
exemplary in tighter trees
Yeah.
and its steering properties.
Much narrower tail profile.
Yeah, it just, you can get it to do
Yeah.
what you want a little bit easier than these.
But both of these take it to another level if you're opening it up on a
Open.
wide trail.
And so we talked about like the learning curve.
Yeah.
So the 120, when we got on it last year, it was pretty apparent that, this thing wants to go.
Yeah.
And so you do have to treat the new 106s like this 120 as opposed to Unleashed 108, 114, or even 98.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different ski, so it doesn't necessarily carry forward what you know from your
previous
your Unleashed experience.
No, I agree. It's a new thing.
Yeah.
It's a new thing. It's exciting because it does feel, like I feel like Nordica had a lot of good things going for them with these enforcer frees. They had a strong following. It doesn't feel like that has carried into the current Unleashed 108
Yeah.
in terms of just like the broad appeal and strong following, and it does feel like they've gotten back to that with these.
So I guess that begs the question: is this more of a modern version of the 104 free,
Yes.
or is the current Enforcer 104 more of equivalent version.
That's a great
So
question.
you can choose a new Enforcer 104 or an Unleashed 106 Ti to be your replacement for your 104 free. Yeah.
It's that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like a really nice continuation and like refreshing change from Enforcer free.
Yeah.
And honestly, to me, it feels less of a progression from Unleashed 108.
Good to know.
Like there are elements from both, and there are certainly similarities to both, but yeah, that makes me feel Enforcer 104 free things.
More than Enforcer 104.
Correct. Yeah. And I think there's going to be a lot of people out there that are really excited about that.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think you just have to trick yourself into not thinking about the names too much.
Yeah.
And it's like, like the future of Unleashed, like, you and I don't know what that looks like. It'll be really interesting to see. Like, the 98's got to change someday.
Right.
Does it follow the trend of this, or does it stay more rooted in the twin tip world? I do not know.
Do not know.
Only time will tell. We'll definitely spend a lot more time on these. When it comes time to do an actual review, we'll definitely get Matt in here.
Yeah.
Because
snap him in.
Yeah. Yeah, Matt does more Unleashed 106 things than I do, and I think more than Bob does too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair to say.
We'll get Matt in here, get his youthful input. Until then, definitely let us know if you have any questions. We have skied them quite a bit now, so I think we can talk about them with at least some confidence.
Yeah, totally.
So, pretty exciting stuff. Let us know if you have any questions, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.